Well, I want to go over why to really invest in physical silver, and I'm not going to give any bankster statistics or anything like that. I'm just talking get real all the way. Stay away from plastic credit cards, plastic people, plastic garbage, and everything else. It's a matter of being real. And I would recommend, before you even bother with physical silver, make sure you have enough food storage, water storage. Also, you're self-sufficient. You have fuel generators, tools, carpentry equipment, electrical equipment, things like this to do everything you need to do on your own. Sometimes people are in physical silver because of a fear of a collapse of the financial system, which may or may not. I don't think it's going to collapse like that per se, but there's going to be areas of the economy that are going to collapse, and we're going to see price increases throughout the board, fairly soon, because like I said, what's going on is fiat money's being built up behind a dam, and right now there isn't a big impetus to chase after hard, real goods. Like, in other words, there's this big fear everybody's holding the fiat money, especially on the top of the banks and the big companies and stuff. They're afraid to lend. They're afraid to invest in new ventures. Companies are afraid to put out new capital outlays because consumer confidence is low. But I want to get right back down to this physical stuff, physical metals. The reason you get physical metals is because you really can't trust anything else. If you don't have it right there, it's not real. I've always been a person too. Like, I can't stand the plastic. I can't stand the phony. There's a lot of people that go along to get along, and I'm not one of those type of people. Quite obviously, maybe or maybe not. If that's obvious or not. But I've basically steered away from trends and things like that. I've always been like that. So I can even remember back in the 60s when they had the Beatles come out. There was Beatlemania, and I was like the only one saying this shit is stupid. But brainwashing takes over. So a lot of people aren't into physical metals because of brainwashing. Basically, they've been told so many times, this is the way to invest your money. You got this electronic account, and you do this and that, and not that that whole system's going to fall apart right away. I got some faith in it and stuff, but it's not something I have a great amount of faith in either. So, it's like sometimes going back to old technology is the best way, and old technology as far as exchanging, using money for exchanging of goods is physical silver. I could appreciate old technology basically with anything. Some things never go out of style. I mean, it could be automotive, motorcycle, houses, architecture, clothes, and people even. People, if you look at some of the beautiful people of the 30s were movie stars, and today, there's most of the people out of Hollywood pale in comparison compared to the big stars of the 30s and 40s. So, that was before the electronic age, and to even tell you the truth, and taste with, I would never buy a brand new car. I'm that type of person. I never would. I tell you, if I was going to blow $30, $40, $50,000 or more on a car, it would be a classic restored car, probably a 50 chopped Mercury. That's the type of person I am. So I don't like getting into the phony plastic glitzy garbage. I actually have some of that. Like, I know people have iPods. I mean, I have a $150 a month cell phone service and stuff like that. I've been keeping up for years. Not on a contract, just a month to month. So I have some of the high tech stuff too. But but like, what I want to point out is the most important thing is to be real in every respect. And physical silver is getting real. Most people will not realize that because they're a pile of lemmings. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. They'll look at you like you're high, and I don't really give a damn if the lemmings fall off a cliff. I don't give a damn. People listening to this channel obviously aren't lemmings anyway, because they're thinking about and they are into physical silver. But I actually would recommend that people get into, besides physical silver, make sure you got plenty of food storage. And be self-reliant. Not like the earth is going to cave in at any moment, would be self-reliant. Learn how to do electrical work in your house. Learn how to fix your own car. Learn how to put your own roof on your house. Learn how to do carpentry work. Learn how to grow a garden. You know, these type of things. And being self-sufficient is basically the American way, the way it was. The way it was, not yuppie-guppy land the way it is today. A lot of cases, it's a lot of pile of crap. So, you know, getting real is what you call physical silver. Now, I want to diverge on something because, you know, I know like a lot of people were talking about oil prices and stuff like that, and it's going to be this catastrophic end to the Western civilization. Well, oil dropped a little bit tonight, but you know, the catastrophic end to the Western civilization is going to be when oil goes to $150 a barrel, $200 a barrel, because supplies are cut off from the Middle East. You heard this garbage from Lindsey Williams for the last couple of years and all this kind of stuff. The sky's falling, Chicken Little, camping, and all this wonderful stuff. Well, I want to point out something a little bit real as far as a real solution. You know, with the automotive sector, you know, there's been a lot of areas, and you know, this isn't just relating to automotive because energy is what's driven civilization in the last 100-something years. We went from coal to crude oil, and you know, and then we got nuclear power supplementing it, and all this type of stuff, natural gas, and all this type of stuff. So, energy is what actually made civilization, which made it possible to have population growth, explosive population growth, cheap energy, because we could grow food cheap and all this type of stuff. It didn't take all these man hours of labor to grow food and all this other stuff. So energy is super important. Cheap energy is super important to basically how well mankind lives, right? There's no doubt about this. So I'm going to just kind of relate this to the car thing, but it's really the whole thing all the way around. If you look back, and I don't know, some people may be familiar with this or not, but you know, Lindsey Williams talks about, you know, the oil company's going to do this and this. Well, I don't want to mention his name too much, but if you look back to the what happened with the supposed water-powered cars, well, actually they weren't water-powered. It was Stanley Myers was one of the ones that put out something. And you can say, some people will argue that was I say it was a conspiracy, but you know, the guy died right after eating in a restaurant. He said he was poisoned. Interesting story after that, the car he had that he demonstrated to news networks and everything like that, running on not water, but actually it was hydrogen split from water with a special process. The car was stolen. The plans were stolen like less than a week after he died. So all that stuff disappeared. You had another guy out there called Paul Pantone. He had a way to run cars with a lot less fuel, using like water vapor mixed in with the fuel. Stuff is still around today. But you know, these guys are like not your real mainstream type of engineers, although I think they're 100% true. I want to get on to something that's more real, and I don't know if you ever heard of this, just like a little bit of a divergence from silver, but you know, it has a big impact upon what goes on in the world. A lot of people are talking about financial collapse, and that's what they're buying silver for, but financial collapse is going to come about from restriction of energy. And this is something I found to be extremely interesting, and this I knew this for many years. I saw this on Hot Rod TV many years ago. Basically, this guy, his name is Smokey Yunick. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he was a very famous race mechanic. He worked for GM, Ford, Pontiac. You know, well, I guess it was General Motors. It was Chevy division, Pontiac division, and also Ford. And he was involved with, you know, top, you know, race. In other words, he was involved with AJ Foyt and all the top racers and everything like that. Excellent mechanic. This guy knew his stuff inside out. He didn't have any degrees, any kind of college or nothing. He was just smart and worked his ass off, and he freaking thought outside the box. In other words, the exact opposite of a yuppie, pipe-smoking son of a bitch that just talks a lot of hot air. He was real all the way. And a lot of things actually that happened in the automotive industry happened because of him. As a matter of fact, not everything he did was like basically patented to his name, because a lot of the innovations that came out of Chevrolet and Pontiac came out from him, right? Because he was working for him. Now, this is an article, I knew about this for many years. I just want to highlight this. And you think about this compared to like what it could do to the oil industry. This is from July 1983, Grain News, page 27. Smokey Yunick's New hot vaporizing engine creates heat in Detroit by Brad Dennis. He goes, what engine is smoother than an electric motor, meets all emission standards without electronic equipment, didn't even have a catalytic converter, by the way, produces 2 horsepower per cubic inch, and if you're familiar with high performance engines, 1 horsepower per cubic inch is really high performance. This is 2. Can deliver 60 miles per gallon and weighs only 170 pounds. This was something developed by Smokey Yunick. It was a hot vapor fuel system. Now, what I want to talk about is basically it's a V2 cut out of a V6. But what I want to talk about, if you want to talk about something being real, this exists. The car is right here. It's actually just examples of other motors he built for Chrysler and stuff like that that exist. Smokey Yunick's hot vapor Fiero, 51 miles a gallon, 0 to 60 in less than 6 seconds. In other words, it was faster than a Corvette at the time, and got mileage better than everything out there. Plus, it passed all the emissions with flying colors and no electronics. They say it can't be done. The thing is, it is done. It does exist. Now, what I always like by myth by is like, how come this isn't out to the general public? Because we have here a real live example of it works. And you know, it's like they have various arguments about this damn thing. They say that Chevrolet didn't want it out because Pontiac could produce a car that would be cheaper than a Corvette, that would be faster, that would get better mileage, it would put them out of business. Well, I was always thinking to myself, that's not the real reason. The real reason is you put the oil companies out of business. You'd put all these electronic marble whiz brain engineers out of business too. Because basically what this did was take heat from the engine, and basically most of the energy expended in an engine, combustion engine, is wasted in the form of heat. You recycle that heat and put it back through these scrubbers, and I don't want to get too technical on this because I don't understand it all the way either, but I've seen a number of demonstrations of this thing running for many years. Years and years ago, I recorded it. I've been aware of this for a long time, and I just want to point it out here with this silver video for a reason, because one of the reasons something doesn't change is because people have ingrained thoughts. In other words, if you have something like this, you have the product right here. You could prove it does this. You could prove it does that. And the Lemmings will come back to you and say, well, if it was that good, they would have sold it to us already. Some entrepreneur would have made it. No, you don't get it, you piece of shit. The reason is, I mean, I got to say it this way. The reason is you'd be putting the oil companies out of business, for Christ's sakes. You'd be putting a lot. In other words, it's just like every other freaking aspect of society. It's not exactly a conspiracy like Cloak and Dagger. It's like people have entrenched rackets. They don't want something to change. They don't want a threat coming up to what their revenue stream is at the moment. In other words, you know, oil companies are selling this much, or if there's some other companies out there in automotive land that are putting all these other parts in the cars, and all of a sudden they don't need them. They hate this. They hate this. It's like, you know, the other thing I talk about even with medical sometimes. Sometimes things from nature or microelectricity could do more to heal the human body than all the pharmaceuticals in the world put together. They hate that. They hate that because you're going to take out their revenue. But that doesn't destroy the economy, does it? No, it only destroys the economy of some blood-sucking crooks. That's all it does. So, I mean, you got to look at it this way. You know, people don't get into physical silver because they figure somebody's got it all taken care of them for them. They think that, well, if silver was the best investment, then how come everybody doesn't have it? The Lemmings. They're idiots. I mean, that's all I got to say. And this guy, Smokey Yunick, he's the opposite of a lemming. He always was. I mean, it's not just that he was during the 50s and the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He was a total maverick all the way back then. Total. And he just did what the hell he thought was right. And he didn't listen to what other people said. You know, he cut his own trail. So it's like, you know, I mean, you had a whole bunch of people telling him it couldn't be done back then. Not with just with this, but with everything. practically most of the stuff we got today in cars is advances in cars is due to this one guy. So I know the fuel conspiracy and all this type of stuff, the oil conspiracy. Actually, that's the number one industry that most people hate. Number one industry most people hate is the oil industry. Number two is actually the healthcare industry. Yeah, I mean, sure, they got rackets they want to protect. The lemmings just don't think. And that's really why things don't change. Or then you got, and I don't want to be too critical of Christians because I think there's a lot of good Christians, but sometimes you get this attitude like, oh, well, God will take care of it. It's, in all in good time. Screw that. I mean, if Smokey Yunick was saying that, you guys would be driving cars that were like back 50 years ago from technology. If people were thinking like that, God will take care of it. I mean, you'd be freaking walking and, plowing a field by hand with a jackass in front of you, I mean, that's really what it is. It takes some balls to freaking move ahead. And, sometimes these Christians really aggravate the heck out of me because I'm not really anti-Christian, but damn, man, this total pacifist attitude is like, forget about it, man. I just can't get into that. It's garbage. So I just want to point out, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of reasons people don't get into physical silver because they just got a whole mentality total opposite of what, like, the right way to think is. You should be real. And most people aren't real. They just want to be led around by the nose. That's really what the hell it is. So it's like, if they don't get into physical silver, that's not my problem. To hell with them. That's all I got to say about that shit. Enjoy the cliff. Enjoy the ride down, It's going to be a nice float right before you hit the bottom and it goes splat. But, as far as, why has this been like this? This is human nature. Most people are freaking idiots. I don't know what the hell to say. They're not real. They never will be real, and they just got to be led around by the nose. And that's really why they don't get into physical silver. But, as far as conspiracies, yeah, they kind of do exist. I mean, you talk about the Federal Reserve, the bankster conspiracies and stuff. Sure, they exist. You know what the deal is? I mean, it's like you're producing money in the form of a loan, and you get it back with interest. It's a nice racket. It's a nice racket. I mean, crap, I'd like that racket too. I mean, you be God on earth, that's basically how that works. But I don't know, maybe I don't have that kind of mentality because I'm too real. So, I have to point out, why is it like this with a lot of people? It's because if you look at everything, most people are fashion, look at me, yuppie-orientated garbage. And if you even go back to the 1800s, there was a lot of stupid fads out then. Even in the 1920s, a lot of stupid fads out there, and everybody just jumped on board. But it's the people that know how to think outside the box and know how to survive. And actually, you should be real in all aspects, not just with silver. But I mean, know everything there is about, physically doing whatever you have to do to be self-sustaining. And I think that's a very important aspect. Forget about the entertainment and the garbage, So, that's a basic point I'm making. I just wanted to interject that thing about, if you want to look that up, you can look up hot vapor engine Pontiac Fiero with Smokey Yunick, and you will find that is an actual real device that's been out since 1983. So that's 30 years, and it's a solution that's not going to come to the forefront because the oil companies don't want it to the forefront. For one. Plus a bunch of stupid engineers and all this other garbage because they'll be losing business on their old electronic gizmos and everything else. But to tell you the truth, that device, since he already thought it up, doesn't mean, you know what, you could take any old car that's out there, put these kind of things on him if you could find out what the hell he was doing. The machine shopist people could make these things, they could sell them, and basically we'd be having like half your energy costs out there left and right on transportation, trucking, and everything else, which would bring the price of goods down. And you could stab the elite in the back all the way, but the oil companies all the way. You can cut them off at the knees in a real fashion. So I don't know. I wanted to point this out because I don't really know how to. I don't know how to make that damn thing. If I knew how to make it, I'd be selling them right now. Believe me, I would be. But I'm going to point out that is real. That is real. It does exist. And the reason people don't get into physical silver because a lot of people are plastic lemmings. I don't know what to say. That's just how they are. They're idiots.